those of us in the ethers, so to speak, those of us who are in non-third dimension, non-physical existence, are very, very concerned about what goes on the planet Earth, because the planet Earth is the great laboratory for all levels of human and non-human existence, in order for the process of learning to live together. That is the greatest experiment of all time, is learning to live together in harmony and in compatibility. And it is the greatest experiment in history of the cosmos, in people, in all beings, allowing all beings their truth and non-interference. Non-interference is the greatest problem, probably, of life. Non-interference. Everybody thinks that they've got to tell everybody else how to live their life. And our primary concern, one of our primary concerns, is to imbue consciousness with the notion that non-interference is the most productive, the most creative, and the avenue toward the greatest success for everybody. Sharing and non-interference. So, we just want you to know that there is a great deal going on in the ethers, in the heavens, in the cosmos, in the non-physical worlds, plural, to effect the thinking of people, so that the things that are worrying you will not ultimately be as impactful and as overpowering as you fear they will be. It will not happen. You can rest assured that it will not happen. There will always be forces around actively engaged in making sure that there are enough people and non-people with the level of consciousness necessary to combat any sort of worldwide, cosmic-wide takeover of thinking. The thought police are very active. We're not minimizing that at all. The thought police are very active, but they are not going to win, and they will never win. Because consciousness and divine intervention, and there will be and is ongoing divine intervention to make certain that there is always going to be a large enough percentage of the population, both third dimensional and non-third dimensional, that will combat any sort of worldwide, cosmic-wide attempt to take over thought and belief and behavior. So you can rest assured that it is safe for you to go out and have a good time. It was about shutting down enough of the economy so that it could, when it started to build up again, be built back up more in the vision of those who would control everything. Now, it's not going to succeed, but it has caused plenty of havoc in plenty of lives and in plenty of communities, that there will be a rethinking all around of what sort of a place do I want to live in. And that is going to actually end up thwarting their efforts, because people will start thinking about how do they want to live, what kind of environment do they want to live in. This is an opportunity to rethink an awful lot about how we do things. Let's decide to do things in a way that will be more advantageous to more people. And so the outcome is going to be quite different from what those who were hoping for control had been hoping for and promoting. So the whole thing really had much less to do with physical ill, with disease, with all of those things, than it had to do with money and power and economics. Mm-hmm. So none of it's going to really work out the way they were hoping it would, just as it didn't work out the way they were hoping it would when your Great Depression in this country, all over the world actually, occurred in 1929. It occurred there were organic causes for it. It is absolutely true. But it was set in motion by those who would go for power and control on a grander scale. They failed, and they will fail again. You can take it to the bank. And we say that with a very big grin on our faces. Fourth dimensional existence has been around on your planet for about 125 years. And that is why, and it's becoming, how should we put this? It's becoming a more integrated part of existence on the planet, which is why there are so many more people with psychic abilities these days, so many more people who are able to communicate with non-physical reality and non-physical beings, with people who have passed over to the non-physical plane through death. The greater and greater numbers of your population have awakened to their extrasensory, shall we say, perceptions and abilities, and are practicing. Just look at your the websites, which is one of the most beneficial things about your technology these days, is having made available to more and more people access to like-minded, and thereby growing the population of psychic ability. People who were 75 years ago, let us say, people who were afraid of what was going on with them, people who never opened their mouths and talked about the fact that they traveled out of their bodies on a regular basis, people who could read other people's minds relatively easily, never talked about these things because they would be not burned at the stake anymore, but they would be shunned and they would be vilified in many, many ways. But now, with your technology announcing to the world the availability of this gift, this ability, this access, yes, there are many fraudulent websites, many fraudulent people out there, but there are even more people who are genuinely gifted and able to function these ways. This is an element of fourth dimension that is growing in availability. The aspect of fourth dimension that allows people to move in and out of physicality is yet to be evolved to the extent that it was predicted 200 years ago. But it is there, and it is happening, and there are people who are quietly taking advantage of moving in and out of physical existence, physical expression more easily, and that will grow in availability and exercise more and more and more as time goes on, so that 100 years from now, it will be commonplace for people to be physical and non-physical at will. Not everybody, it will never be the majority of the people, but more and more people, and people will be able to compare notes with each other about their experiences and about what they sense and what they see when they are non-physical. Very much like what is called near-death experiences today. But what we want to point out right off the bat is that the term fourth density is a misnomer, because fourth dimension is not a density existence. Third dimension is density. It is matter that is manifest in physical form. Fourth dimension does not have that density. It has a modicum, but nothing like third dimension. Fourth dimension, one could not pass from fourth dimension back into third dimension if fourth dimension were as dense as third dimension. It would be impossible. Fourth dimension and beyond are non-densified existences. They are non-dense. They are non-manifest in physical form. Kinds of existences. It's very difficult to discuss because it involves issues of matter and substance that there is no vocabulary for in third dimension. there is this thing called unconditional love, which is darn near impossible for most adult humans to feel toward anything other than a pet or an infant. It is a divine experience, unconditional love. Divinity loves unconditionally. Humans strive to and fail because it is a thing of divine, of the divine. And so, the more you strive to emulate divine existence, the closer you get to being able to transition into non-physical existence, but conscious. And so it is a matter of always asking yourself, what is my truth in this instance? Am I able to be in compassion and peace with these individuals who are trying to control me? Can I love them with the divine love of the grace of God as they tell me that I must succumb to their rule? It's a very high, lofty, darn near impossible thing to achieve, and yet you strive for it. It is as is said in the ancient texts, that just because you cannot achieve the perfection of heaven does not absolve you of the task of striving to. And so that is the ultimate human goal, is to achieve as great a level of divinity in human form as is possible for that individual. And so the truth and sincerity of the way you conduct your life is what determines what happens after you have finished with this life. So it is a matter, again, of striving to meet the goal of living at the level of the divine as much as possible.